Today I decided to look elsewhere for a video, and I checked out BitShite, and I found a channel called Spacebusters, and he has a series of questions for NASA fanboys. We're going to go for question number 2, where he thinks he has busted the moon, craters and NASA.
I cannot wait to hear you wriggle out of this one.
Well, as journalism says, interesting. Now, BitShite is the place where flat earthers and other conspiracy theorists go to die, and I thought I would have a bit of a poke around just to see what's there. There's a load of trash and some interesting nuggets, and this was one. I wouldn't want to tackle the moon without my amazing patrons. Massive thanks to all my patrons, including new patrons: Dark Saber, Chris Holmes, Crafty Keeler, Nell Pinion, William Schofield, Nicola Redmond, AZ Atheist, Grumpy Old Man, Hugh Jars, Larry XK, Juha Eskalinen, and my latest patrons, Purple Rhymes with Orange and Tim Nicholas. Thank you all so very much. So, Spacebusters, I believe you have a number 2 for us. Go ahead and dish it up and roll VT.
For question number 2, we are going to stick with our old friend, the moon.
Oh, hello moon, me old mate. Give us a big hug.
NASA tells us that we always see the same side or face of the moon because it is locked into synchronous rotation with the Earth.
You do realise that there are more people than just NASA who know something about space and our solar system. I mean, for instance, you could go outside and see if you ever see a different face to the moon. You don't need NASA. But even then, over the course of the month, you do actually see more than just the one exact face due to lunar libration. Think of it as a wobble of the moon as it orbits around us. We can see just round the curve on each side, and so see more than 50% of its surface.
Just another one of those wonderful coincidences.
A coincidence of one thing. My goodness, a cup of tea, what a coincidence.
Like the moon and the sun having exactly the same angular size as each other, so the eclipses can happen.
Our survey said...
The sun and the moon do not always have the same angular size, which is why sometimes the eclipse looks like this. It's an annular eclipse, and the sphere of the moon is not enough to entirely cover the sun.
They also tell us that the moon is covered with impact craters from gazillions of years of bombardment.
Well, 4.53 billion.
By all sorts of cosmic junk.
Meteors, comets, stray canoeists.
As our own eyes show us, meteors, meteorites, shooting stars, and other celestial events in the night sky come from all different angles.
I just know where this is going.
For an impact crater to be perfectly round,
Red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert.
For an impact crater to be perfectly round, the impact object has to hit perpendicular to the surface.
Our survey said...
Wrong, and in fact it's very difficult for an impact crater to not be round.
If it doesn't, then the crater is elongated.
An impact crater can be elongated, but only if the striking object came in at an extremely shallow angle.
This can be adequately demonstrated by dropping a pebble onto sand.
Our survey said...
No, it can't.
Let it drop and it will make a circle. Throw it at an angle and it will make an elongated mark.
If you drop an object, it will be travelling at a few tens of metres per second at best. A meteor or other object striking the moon will be striking it at thousands of miles per hour. A little bit different.
Strangely enough, all the craters on the moon are circles.
Our survey said...
Well, strangely enough, with just a very quick glance at a still from your little bit of film, we can see that they are not all circles.
Therefore, we have to assume that all of the impacts came from a 90-degree angle, perpendicular to the surface.
No we don't. When an object such as a meteor travelling at orbital velocity strikes an object like the moon, it's an instant release of a lot of energy. It's not just the weight of the object hitting the moon. In effect, it's like a nuclear explosion, and the energy expands pretty much equally in all directions to the extent that craters will be circular. There is, however, of course, the odd occasion when the object is coming in at such a shallow angle that it's virtually only grazing the surface. So you can get an elongated crater under those circumstances.
This is possible, however, highly improbable.
Well, that's about the only thing you've said so far in your entire video that's correct. Yes, it's possible for every single meteor to strike the surface of the moon in a perpendicular fashion, but very, very improbable. But since we're not claiming that that's the case, it doesn't matter. So move on, fail boy.
But what about all the craters that are constantly facing Earth? Where the hell did those meteorites come from?
Possibly out of your butt.
Did they go around the Earth before they reached the moon? Did they go through the Earth by some magical means? Is there some guy somewhere on Earth taking pot shots at the moon with a big gun? I once heard someone suggest that the craters were formed by escaping gas from the moon's core.
And I once heard that Golga Frencham was under threat of being eaten by a giant mutant star goat. You probably came from Golga Frencham. Perhaps you can tell us.
I mean, really, NASA, how can you explain this one?
Oh, really? How indeed? Well, I'm nearly out of ideas. Or how about this? In your image, you've got the Earth and the Moon pretty much to scale, but the distance between them is in no way to scale. And if you're looking at that, no wonder you can't understand how the Earth side of the Moon can get struck by meteors. No, in reality, the scale is more like this. Now, looking at the Moon and Earth and the distance between them to scale, it's quite easy to see how there is no problem with objects striking the Earth side of the Moon. In fact, as long as they're not coming from a direction between these two yellow lines, there's no issue at all.
I mean, really, NASA, how can you explain this one?
Now really, Spacebusters, how can you post this without sheer embarrassment?
For one, the chances of every meteorite hitting the moon perfectly perpendicular
It's totally bloody immaterial.
is about as likely as Brexit happening or Bill Gates taking one of his own vaccines.
So the UK has officially left the European Union.
Look, you've got to get something right. Why not just tell us what shape the moon is?
And how did the perfectly circular impact craters always facing the Earth get there?
Well, perhaps you should speak to Why You Are an Idiot. I did a video about him. He seems to think that the marks on the moon were caused by a giant wolf chewing it. But there you go.
I cannot wait to hear you wriggle out of this one.
Well, you poorly educated skid mark, it appears as though we managed to wriggle out of that one.
Spacebusters, the channel that makes you think.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
Well, the standard of your NASA moon crater debunking is bloody atrocious. These are questions a kid might sensibly ask, but then when it's explained to them, would then understand. You're supposed to be an adult. Could you not spend at least 5 minutes to research and find out the actual answers instead of making yourself look absolutely ridiculous? I've had so much fun pulling your trash to bits that I think I might have a delve around and find some more, just for our entertainment. I hope you've all enjoyed this. Until next time, stay sensible.
Shut up and sit down.